IBB's rise to power was followed by the customary purge of personnel whose loyalty could not be guaranteed. Within months of IBB coming to power, 42 officers had been retired. However, IBB had not purged enough, and in early December 1985, rumors of a coup plot began circulating in the military and political circles. With the government making no announcement on the allegations, several names were mentioned as instigators of a coup. The rumors swept around the barracks too, and Vassa's name crept up. The rumors reached Vassas oddly, who did not know how to approach his boss about such a sensitive issue. The oddly therefore disclosed the rumors to Vassa's wife, who in return urged her husband to talk to Babangida about the issue. Babangida and Vassa had been friends since boyhood and were old classmates, having attended the Bida Middle School together. They were also classmates from their cadet days. They had enlisted in the Nigerian Military Training College on the same day, commissioned into the army on the same day, and held equal rank and seniority to each other. In the company of their mutual friends, one of whom was Gadonasco, Vassa met Babangida and asked him how he could suspect his own friend of coup plotting. According to Babangida, Vassa asked him, "You heard I was planning a coup and you couldn't even ask me. What kind of friend are you?" Babangida replied, "I didn't believe it. Or are you planning a coup?" Vassa replied in the negative. The coup rumors were so wild that even Nasco's name was being peddled as a suspect by rumor mongers. Babangida refused to believe their mutual childhood friend Nasco was involved. The matter remained dormant until there was a genuine coup plot. The suspects did not realize that a mole had compromised their plot and that their meetings were being monitored. The government infiltrated the plot to the extent that when the suspects held their last meeting in Makurdi in December 1985, Lieutenant Colonel Shagaya arranged to stay in the same hotel as them so he could observe them from close quarters. On December 20th, 1985, the FMG formally acknowledged the issue when Major General Domkat Bali, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Defense Secretary, announced that officers from all the services were recruiting followers and concluding plans for the overthrow of the government. Bali claimed that plotters planned to overthrow the government because 1. They opposed the retention of some public officers from the former regime. 2. They opposed the drafting of middle-ranking officers into the government. 3. The FMG was too concerned with human rights. And 4. The FMG rejected a loan from the IMF. Analyzed objectively, the reasons stated by Bali for the coup seemed amateurish. However, they were reflectively believed and not critically appraised by a gullible public that was still intoxicated by Babangida's charm. This gave government the latitude to embellish the coup rationale in Bali's statements. However, Bali did not name the perpetrators, and this led to a further round of rumors and gossip about the potential suspects. Solidarity rallies were staged in support of IBB. If the reasons given by Bali were real, the plotters would have had immense difficulty in convincing the public and their military colleagues that these were sufficient justifications for a violent coup. A more plausible explanation is that the coup was the culmination of power struggle between the pro-Buhari and pro-Babangida factions in the army. The plotters belonged to the former faction and might have advocated a return to the disciplinarian ethos of the Buhari regime. Shortly after midnight on December 23, 1985, a group of soldiers arrived at Vassa's home at Romans Road, Ikoyi, to arrest him. The soldiers brought an arrest warrant signed by the Provost Marshal of the Nigerian Army, Sani Sami. Vassa was whisked away and driven to number 7 Cameron Road in Ikoyi. Vassa's family and colleagues still thought there was hope because the arrest warrant was signed by Sani Sami, an officer who was a friend and a longtime colleague of Vassa. The first reaction of Vassa family was to approach his army friends and classmates for help. General Gadonasco promised to help, but the situation was escalating. Investigators searched Vassa's home thoroughly, going through his massive library and opening up his books. They were excited by the presence of 2 locked safes in Vassa's house. The safes were taken to the Directorate of Military Intelligence at Apapa, where they were forced open by welders. The investigators were disappointed to find that only wristwatches were inside. Eventually, all utilities at Vatta's house were disconnected, and after a period of time under house arrest, his family were ordered to move out. Vatta was denied visits in detention except from his daughter Fatima. After 2 weeks, Vatta was transferred to Ikoyi prison and later to Kirikiri Maximum Prison in Lagos. On December 27, 1985, the Information Minister Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Ukwu named the coup suspects as
investigations have so far confirmed the involvement of the following in the abortive coup plot. There are Major General Maman Bassa, Brigadier Nasarawa, Group Captain David Ipeme, Group Captain Salawuddin Lakinwo, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Oche, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Iyoshe, Lieutenant Colonel Musa Bition, Lieutenant Colonel Moses Effiong, Lieutenant Colonel Emmanuel Obeya, Wing Commander Adamu Sakaba, Wing Commander Ben Ekele, Commander A.A. Oguji, Squadron Leader Martin Luther, and Major Daniel Bamidele. Let me seize this opportunity to once more appeal to the press to be objective in reporting events associated with the coup plot. I had earlier warned about the implications of the Nigerian press quoting from the foreign press. We should avoid the situation whereby we will prejudice and indeed hamper investigations by going to press on the basis of rumor. From time to time, press conferences will be held to provide an update on the aborted coup plot. Thank you.
The Special Investigation Panel, headed by Sani Sami, was tasked with investigating the coup. As a result of these investigations, over 100 officers were arrested and interrogated. Those called in for questioning but not charged included Victor Malu, David Mark, Mike Ahigbe, Tunde Ogbeha, and Rufus Pobeni. Interrogation became so widespread that Babangida later jokingly suggested that he was the only officer not involved with the coup. The Defense Minister, Major General Domkat Bali, inaugurated the Special Military Tribunal, and it began trying the suspects at Dodam Barracks in January 1986. The SMT was headed by Major General Charles Ndiomu, a veteran Ijo officer from Delta State. The SMT members were placed in a very harrowing position of having to sit in judgment over their colleagues and having to decide whether or not they would die. Vatta knew Ndiomu well as a colleague and also via a parent-school headmaster relationship. Vatta's son Haruna was a student at the Nigerian Military School Zaria, while Ndiomu was his commandant. Vatta would often see Ndiomu when he visited Haruna at the school. Many of the plotters were from the elites of the officer corps in all three arms of the military and were erudites. Lieutenant Colonel Oche had been a PhD candidate at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., before being recalled by the previous Buhari regime to work in intelligence at Supreme Headquarters. Yoshe was an articulate and outstanding officer who had distinguished himself from his early days as a cadet. He was formerly ADC to former Chief of Army Staff and Defense Secretary Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma. Yoshe was the brigade major of the Brigade of Guards at Bonny Camp in Lagos when President Shagari was overthrown in 1983. Many members of his unit facilitated the coup that overthrew Shagari. Yoshe, Effiong, and Bamidele held training appointments at the Command and Staff College in Jaji. B.T. Young was the Army's Director of Logistics. Ahura and Luther were members of the Presidential Pilots Fleet. All the accused pleaded guilty, and except for Vatta, all the defendants were represented by military lawyers. Vatta's request for Colonel Yohana Maraki, who was an army officer and a lawyer, to act for him was rejected. He therefore opted to defend himself and refused to make a written statement to his interrogators. Unfortunately for him, some of the other defendants were more forthcoming. The prosecution alleged that the defendants held two meetings in Lagos and Makurdi and planned to bomb Eko Bridge, the Ikeja cantonment, and Dodam Barracks in Lagos using cluster bombs dropped from the Air Force, MiG-21 and Alpha jets. One of these Air Force jets was alleged to be flown by squadron leader Martin Luther, who was also the leader of Babangida's presidential pilots fleets. The prosecution also alleged that Vasa used his position as Minister of the Federal Capital Territory to offer certificates of occupancy for prime plots of land in Abuja to induce officers to join the plots. In a statement dated December 21, 1985, Yoshe said he met Ekele, Sakaba and others in Makurdi and allotted responsibilities to individuals such as the operation cell, the political cell, the economic cell, and the logistics. He said that as the plotters needed financial support, he decided to contact Vasa through BT Young, since BT Young was known to be close to Vasa. As an expert Air Force pilot, squadron leader Martin Luther testified that contrary to the prosecution's claim that they intended to bomb strategic locations in Lagos, it was impossible for the MiG-21 and Alpha jets to take off from Makurdi, bomb Lagos, then return to base. Vasa denied being privy to the coup plot and pointed out that from his experience as a member of the 1976 Dimka coup Board of Inquiry, he had seen the intrigues that go on when people are planning coups. He claimed that he informed the authorities when he heard rumors of a coup plot, but he declined to name those he informed. Vasa admitted to giving 10,000 naira to BT Young, but said it was an agricultural loan to help BT Young with some farming projects. He also denied the allegation made by BT Young that when Babangida was Chief of Army Staff, Vasa had lobbied Buhari to remove Babangida from the post. Moses Effiong also denied knowing anything about the plot. He was tried for concealment of treason. Ndiomu was unimpressed with the defense. He said that Vasa had long nursed grievances against the president and that the evidence showed the scorn and grudge Major General Vasa had harbored against the president since he was Chief of Army Staff. On February 25, 1986, 17 of the defendants, including Vasa, were found guilty of treason. According to the tribunal chairman, Ndiomu, Vasa was the mastermind behind the plots. Ndiomu added that Vasa's protests of innocence were clearly the impulsive, psychological mechanism of a person who has something to hide. 17 of the defendants were found guilty of treason, and 13 of them, including Vasa, were sentenced to death. The convicts had 7 days to appeal against their death sentences, which were subject to confirmation by the AFRC. No appeal to other tribunals or courts were permitted, and only the AFRC could confirm or vary the sentences. Vasa's literary accomplishments led the Association of Nigerian Authors to appeal for his death sentence to be commuted. Nigerian literary giants Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, and J.P. Clark met with Babangida on March 4, 1986 to appeal for clemency. After meeting with Babangida, the three men genuinely believed that they had managed to persuade Babangida not to carry out the death sentences. Babangida assured them that he would do his best and be merciful. The death sentence were sent to the AFRC for review. During the AFRC's deliberations, Babangida's wife Miriam tried to contact her husband by telephone, but she got no response. Babangida was locked in an urgent meeting with AFRC members on the verdicts. Miriam persisted and managed to get a written note passed to Babangida in the AFRC chamber. The note pleaded for Babangida to spare Vasa's life. Babangida himself personally favored a commutation of the death sentences. However, military officers from Plateau State pressed Babangida to carry out the death sentences. In their views, officers from their states suffered disproportionately and were executed in the aftermath of the 1976 Dimka coup. So as far as they were concerned, what was good for the goose was also good for the gander. There was a possibility that if the executions were not carried out, officers from Plateau State might become a potential future source of coup plots. Between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., the controller of prisons, Dan Ishi, walked into the condemned prisoner's cell and informed all 13 men on death row that they should pack their personal belongings as they were to be transferred. The inmates' hopes were raised as they speculated that the AFRC might have commuted their death sentences. By 5 p.m., the weather had become foggy, and the expert fighter pilot, Benekele, told his fellow inmates that they were unlikely to be transferred, as no pilot would want to fly and take risks in such weather conditions. Within 30 minutes, soldiers arrived at the prison disembarked, and one of them called out the following names: Major General Maman Vata, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Yoshi, Lieutenant Colonel Christian Oche, Major Daniel Bamidele, Wing Commander Ben Ikili, Wing Commander Adamu Sakaba, Navy Commander Achuku Andrew Oguji, Squadron Leader Asen Ahura, and Squadron Leader Martin Luther. As soon as they were called out, the men were handcuffed and immobilized with leg irons. Not wanting to be left behind, Major Akwashiki began screaming from his cell, "What about me? Am I not coming?" He was told to calm down and that he would be transferred with another batch. Akwashiki, Uku, and Efyong remained in their cell as the 10 others departed. While being led to the stake, Yoshi asked why Efyong and Akwashiki were absent. He was lied to and told that they would follow in the next batch. According to Lieutenant Colonel Moses Efyong, his colleague Mike Yoshi implicated him in the coup plot he claimed to know nothing about as revenge for residual bad blood between them after they fell out in 1983. Yoshi said he was proud to die a soldier. BT Young led the other men in song as they sang on their way to the stakes. Vasa remained mute throughout. He shunned the final rites of the Imam. Before facing the firing squad, Vasa removed his wristwatch and wedding ring and asked for them to be given to his wife. Around 6:30 p.m., Efyong, West, and Uku heard the unmistakable boom of gunfire within the prison walls. At 8 p.m., Major General Domkat Bali made a nationwide broadcast confirming that the convicts had been executed. Part of Bali's speech grimly stated that in the military, the punishment for treason is death. 20 years later, in a 2006 interview with Domkat Bali, he revisited the Vasa issue. Bali cast serious doubt on Vasa's guilt and whether he should have been executed. He said, "My regret is that up till now, I'm not sure whether Vasa ought to have been killed, because whatever evidence they amassed against him was weak. My only regret is that I cannot say, don't do it. I'm not so sure whether we have the right to kill him."